There's so much beautiful food that we have been harvesting from the garden this week, and my last garden tour really focused on insects. So I thought I'd sneak in an extra garden tour this month and show you everything that we're harvesting, everything that we're growing, and everything that I'm planning to get into the ground this week and next. What I think I worked out is the problem is that I actually pre-mixed up my all 4 big bags have moved to... I'm in Melbourne, Australia. I run garden tours at least every month. If you're into that sort of thing, that's what you can find here. Hit subscribe. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm exhausted. It's been a really big few weeks and I actually haven't spent much time in the garden at all. It's amazing that I've managed to harvest this much food. I've got so much I want to do and I just can't get it done. I've got 3 beautiful kids, including a nearly 1-year-old girl. Can you believe it? For those of you who've been following for a while, my little bub is nearly 1 and she is a firecracker. She's so busy, she doesn't stop, and she's an eater. She puts everything in her mouth. Now that's excellent because she loves eating cucumbers straight from the garden. She loves eating tomatoes straight from the garden. She loves anything I give her. She also will eat handfuls of dirt. Did it go pop? Oh. You just squished it. You're gonna eat it too? We won't be too far off when she's a little bit older and she's just probably stopped putting everything in her mouth and become a bit better at identifying what's food and what's not. But for now, I'm finding it tough to get into the garden. So that's the honest truth, but I'm gonna give you a full tour anyway. I'm gonna show you how those seedlings are going that I planted recently. I'm very sorry if the audio is not as good today as it usually is. Usually I use a neck mic with a clip-on thing. Can't find it for the life of me. My baby's also not sleeping at the moment, which doesn't help the memory. Remember where I put things. That's the honest truth for you. I'm tired. Can I just take you for a little walk through here to show you how beautiful this space is looking? If you've been watching this channel for a while, and clearly I haven't cleaned anything up, you'll know how hard I worked with the help of the Daisy's Garden Supplies team to create this little oasis for myself up here. I've done very little maintenance recently. I haven't had the time, but it's still such a happy place for me. Not only are my flowers all starting to bloom, look at these beautiful daisies. These are paper daisies. The funny thing is, I grew these from seed. The packet said salmon rose daisies, so I thought I was growing sort of a salmon coloured daisies that I thought would probably be a bit like that. And between now and then, my brother had his wedding, which was absolutely beautiful, and they had paper daisies all through their wedding. And I remember looking at them thinking, oh, I need to grow those because they're so divine, not knowing the whole time that that is what I was growing here. And I'm absolutely loving these flowers with that gorgeous archway that is now filled with beans and tomatoes and everything else. All these that are thriving. My beds have sunk a lot. I need to fill them up. I bought a bunch of soil to top them up with, and I actually just haven't had the time or the hands free to do it yet. But this space is, it's 100% what I wanted it to be. These trees, I haven't been able to keep pruning them. It's a job for another day. But again, I just love them so much. You want to see the detail of what's growing? A shout out to Rich Grow. Rich Grow are a fab local company. Tomato and veggie food I've used before, absolutely love. They've sent some of this new stuff out to me to try. I think this is one of the newest products, the Rich Grow Soil Soaker. It is supposed to help the water get right down to the bottom of the roots. Don't ask me how that works, but it is supposed to be quite good. They've also sent me these water storage crystals. I would love that for my indoor plants. I find it really easy to water my outdoor veggie garden, and I've got irrigation systems set up, but I don't do quite so well inside. So mixing some of that up with things that just dry out really quickly is an excellent way of keeping them moist. Let's start up here with my zucchini and my chili. 1, because they're first in line. 2, because they are prolific. I just cannot keep up with my zucchinis. The irony of it is that we did a video only sort of a few weeks ago with my mother-in-law talking about the perfect size to pick zucchinis for optimum taste. It's probably that size. That might even be a bit big already. But I can't actually get out into the garden frequently enough to catch them when they're at the right size. So they're just getting so big and I don't have the time or energy to cook with them at the moment. So I'm gonna need to work on something pretty drastic so that I don't waste all these. Alternatively, I might actually just take them to school and hand them out to whoever wants them. This plant also has had heaps of powdery mildew, but it's, look, they're still producing fruit. You can see that one's rotting, but I think that was probably just because it wasn't pollinated. And what I'm learning is not to ever drop the rotting fruit on the floor, because that's how you get a problem with fruit flies. If they're in your garden, they will just spread that way. So don't drop rotting fruit on the ground, even if it feels like natural compost. It has to either be buried deep enough the fruit fly can't get to it, or put through the proper compost system. Unless it's already got fruit fly in there, in which case don't put it anywhere near your compost. You need to get rid of it with like serious biohazard controls. I actually still haven't got through all my chilies from last year, so I've got way too many. I've done actually nothing to this plant this year other than watered it, and it just keeps on going. So this is the same one. This was overwintered from last year. I'm going to be giving this whole lot away to anyone who wants them. The other thing that I'm doing, which is probably a bit cheeky, is I'm actually sprinkling them around my tomato plants and my strawberries, because the birds and the pests and the rats and the possums, etc., love eating all those things. So my hope is that if they see something red, have a little nibble, discover it's not quite what they were hoping for, they might leave the rest of my things alone. We'll see if it works. I actually think it's kind of working. I don't know if it's coincidence, but those things are actually doing better than they were before, so maybe it's working. My archway here just continues to amaze me. So I still can't quite understand what's happening with these beans, because I'm pretty sure I only actually planted like 3 or 4 climbing bean plants. But if you have a look, they just keep spreading and spreading and spreading and getting bushier and bushier. There's a lot of leaves there that are struggling, but the actual, like, there's so much of this bush here, and I just have to go through it pretty closely, or I would really miss some of the things in there. I've let it really sort of grow over and drop down here, mostly because I want to try and encourage my bigger kids to come in and get excited and sort of, you know, forage for food or eat from the garden. And the problem with the beans being up so high, of course, they can't reach them. So it makes it a bit more fun for them if they can come and help themselves and get their own food. But yeah, it's just fascinating, because I really don't think that started from many plants. So if you have a look in there, yeah, so you can see one main bean stem, and that's just taken off and gone in every direction. And there's another one there. I really think that's actually only 2 or 3 bean plants that's now gone and 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 going crazy. And the other interesting thing is, after we went away, there was quite a lot of beans that were sort of overripe, but nearly no new flowers. So I thought the plant was nearing the end of its days. But of course, then I went and harvested everything, gave it a good water and a bit of a prune, and it's just taking off again. So every single one of these little flowers is new beans coming through. You can see beans galore. So if you feel like your bean plant is maybe not reaching the end of its days, or maybe not doing so well, just try giving it a really, really good harvest and a bit of a prune and see if it takes off again. I don't know what I've done to this one, but I know that certainly very few new beans were growing when I wasn't harvesting them, and heaps of new growth has started popping up. Of course, we've had hot weather still, so that's helped. Really got to look through here, don't you? Beans, beans, beans. Beauty. There's heaps under here. The good thing about not having a neck mic today is that I can eat as I go and you won't hear the crunching, or not as loud. Just such a relief that I don't have to jump on them as quickly as these tomatoes, because the birds don't seem to love them as much as I do, which is excellent. More. You see I've got my little disco ball here to deter the birds. I actually do think it might be working a bit. I do feel like the birds are slightly less of a problem than they were before I put it up. Coincidence? Maybe, who knows? So until recently, I would never let my tomatoes get this ripe because the birds just get to them. But these don't have any bird marks on them. And the only reason I've let them get this ripe is just because I haven't had the time to get into the garden recently to get them earlier. How good do they look? Angela, who told me about these bags, organza bags, you're a genius and a legend. I think she told me to use them for my passion fruit, but now I've been using them for everything, and they work for everything, and they're so easy to reuse. So I open them, take the stuff out, put them back on. I bought a lot, which to begin with I thought, am I being excessive? Because I bought a few, they worked well, I went back and bought more. But I can just keep reusing them and reusing them. They're so easy to just open and close, and just at my local little $2 shop. So probably not the most sustainable, but as I said, very reusable. You can easily rinse them. They just work a treat. So speaking of passion fruit, while we're at it, let's take a look. 'Cause I actually think this passion fruit was, has it been taken? I had a passion fruit that's pretty much ready to pick. Has it been taken? Has it been taken? Ah, look, it's not there. It was in a bag, so it's hard to miss. Yeah, that passion fruit's gone. This has the bag. Something's taken it. All right, while we're here, let's look at my cucumber. That one's a flop. Something's taken a bite out of that. Pull that off. Get rid of it so that don't waste energy on that one. But I guess while we're here, what have we got here? Some little baby cucumbers that are good picking. My kiddos love these. These are an excellent snack to have in the house. Do you know what? I don't think I can do that one-handed. No, I'm gonna need the scissors. So these tomatoes at the back have been a bit funky. I reckon this plant's diseased. This was also one of my oldest tomato plants. So to be fair, it's probably reaching the end of its time. So you can see something's tried to get at that through the bag. Tried and failed, but tried enough that it's sort of mucked up my fruit. Now, last garden tour I introduced you to ladybird larvae, or in other words, the little ladybirds when they're in their youngest stage of life. And I showed you some that had just hatched. Here's one I just found that's clearly a lot older. So if you see these in your garden, let them be. Definitely don't spray them. They turn into ladybird. This one in particular is the fungus-eating ladybird. I know because it's distinct yellow and black in colour, and we've done a bit of a deep dive recently in one of my other videos. If I had time, while I'm back here, I would be putting little bags over all of these tomatoes as well. I don't have time, so I might do it another day if I get the chance, or I might not, and we can just share them. Let me show you the rest of this bed now. If you have a look really closely, you can see little carrot sprouts poking through here at different stages. My middle child and I sprinkled some carrot seeds in here a good few weeks ago now. These ones are getting a bit bigger. We clearly missed a chunk in the middle, either that or for whatever reason they didn't germinate, so we came through and sprinkled some more in the middle. They will at some stage need to be thinned out probably, but they also tend to be a bit vulnerable to pests, so let's just see which get thinned out naturally, which survive. We'll go from there. Beetroot, you know what, this is actually ready to harvest, this one. There's a beetroot, I'll put that in there. And I think this one probably is too. These are really yummy, these orange beetroot. There we go. My daughter loves them, my baby. The other kids are too scared to try them. They're clearly getting older and a little bit more cautious. They're really yummy. These beetroot I planted later, so they've got some more growing to go. And those beetroot are the golden ones again. So they're really, really yummy, those ones. And they don't stain as much as the red ones. So if you love beetroot, but you've maybe got kids and you don't want them to stain everything, try growing the golden beetroot. They're really delicious. I got those ones as seedlings. Spring onion sprinkled around. Rocket. Beautiful little ladybird hiding in there. Hello, darling. Thank you very much. And radicchio. See, I haven't clearly inspected these for a long time. These are Brussels sprouts that I probably put in a little bit too early. And you can see they've got holes all through them. That'll be the cabbage white butterfly. They are brassica, so cabbage white butterfly, love them. And if I was to look closely, I'm sure I would find green caterpillars all through there. Oh yeah, see, there we go, there's one. Little cabbage white butterfly caterpillar. That's what's making the holes. I should have covered those up. Again, I just haven't had the time or the energy. So there's holes all through there, which means the caterpillars are out. And holes all through these ones too. Usually the tinier the holes, the tinier the caterpillars. As the caterpillars have more to eat, they grow, so do the holes. If you see lots of holes in your brassicas and can't find any caterpillars, it might mean that another creature's come and cleaned them up for you. Oh yeah, there's a big one. There's a big one, cheeky thing. Just quickly, some other bits in here, more spring onion down the back, lettuce, and the old tomato plants. This one's not doing so well. Lots of big tomatoes growing in here. That one's sort of starting to change colour. I'll watch that quite closely and pick that when it changes a bit more. If you do pick them too early, they don't have quite the same flavour. But once they're sort of half ripened on the vine, apparently that's about the best their flavour's going to get when they're ripe. So if you see them half ripe, pick them. If you see them less than that, also feel free to pick them. But they might not be quite so flavoursome. These are all a bit funky looking, aren't they? You got to laugh at my attempt to grow zucchinis vertically. You can see I've tried, but then the zucchini was just growing way quicker than I could manage it. So this one starts, let me zoom out. This one starts here, goes around here, and then it's got a few different branches. There's another one here, again, it splits in half to here. So I've got a main stem there, and they're growing sort of zucchinis on either side. That one hasn't been pollinated and it's looking gross. Actually, all of them, I need to pull them off. Hello, tomatoes. Yeah, look. Again, sometimes less is more. The less I tend to do with my zucchinis, the more I find. So I've sort of given up and it's working very well. Put some new corn in here. Something's having a go at these leaves. Young corn plants, but they're growing quite nicely. Now in the back here, my pumpkin patch plus, and I say plus because I don't really know what's growing. Lots of flowers that are open today that haven't been open recently, and I have found a few fruity looking things. Probably need to go and venture into the wild to see what's growing on them. Ooh. Found one. Hello. It's the closest I've got so far to a pumpkin, I think. It might not even be a pumpkin. Okay, so I found something else cool here. Again, no idea what that is. Surely not a rock melon. I did plant rock melons. I didn't think I planted them here. This is one I planted that I know was a rock melon. And I haven't seen any actual rock melons growing on it. You're supposed to grow these over like an archway. You can see it's growing all the way through there. Now, one way I should probably use those organza bags is to protect these capsicums that are growing, because we know they get eaten. And every time I get one close to ripe, it disappears. Again, gotta pick your battles, don't you? And that's just a battle I don't have time for at the moment. My basil is all starting to go to seed, so I need to harvest a bunch of that. I love my basil. What else do we need to show you through here while we're up here? Hiding under here is celery. My daughter's decided she loves celery at the moment. Excellent. Love that. My capsicum plant under there is getting smothered. I actually think I'm going to cut that off now because clearly that's not doing so well. That's the same plant. Let's put the energy into there. Let's save my capsicum plant. Probably should use secateurs, but I've got scissors in my pocket, so that'll do. Hey. Alright, we've got a basil in there, but I'm actually going to pull that out because that's got like a black fungally spot stuff all over it, probably because it didn't have any airflow or even sunlight. Oh, how's that for worms? How's that for worms? These look like probably compost worms. So when I fill these beds up, I put a whole lot of wood down the base of it and then soil on top. And the hope was that the wood would then slowly decompose. Gosh, there's just worms everywhere, isn't there? The wood would decompose and then sort of actually turn into a bit of a natural longer term compost source. So I think that's what's happening here. So let's move over to my food cubes before this baby girl wakes up, because I reckon some of you will be keen to get a seedling update. Now, first thing first, the initial tray, or the initial 2 trays that I planted out have been a flop. So some of them grew, like the snow peas, the peas that I've already transplanted into here and covered up because they're delicate. I need to do some more work on them. That was also the first tray. I had a relatively low germination rate, very fast germination for the first bit, low germination rate for the rest of them. I also had soil that I worked out pretty quickly was absolutely swarming with fungus gnat larvae. Now, what I think I've worked out is the problem is that I actually pre-mixed up my medium. I used coco coir, vermiculite, worm castings and perlite. So that all should have been really clean. The problem was I mixed it up. I didn't actually then have time to plant out straight away. So I had the container full of my mixture sitting outside for a few days, within which time it rained, it got wet. I think they started breeding in there long before I even planted my seeds. So by the time I put my seeds in there, it was already a bit damp, and I just hadn't thought this through very well. Everything in my initial 2 trays haven't done particularly well because I think they've just been getting attacked when they've been tiny little babies by this fungus gnat larva, which I showed you in my last video. If you really want to see it, it's gross. This is my most recent tray, and I started it exactly the same way. Started it inside. I even started it with water down the base. A lot of you were like, you shouldn't have water at the base. If you'd watched my video prior to that, you'd understand why I was testing out that method. Anyway, obviously it was a complete breeding ground for the fungus gnats. But my point being, I used the exact same mixture that I'd already pre-mixed here. The difference was I let it completely dry out for a few days first in the sun, so that anything that had already started growing in there didn't have a chance to keep growing. I did a bit of research. Fungus gnat larvae don't survive if they dry out. So, and just look at the difference. So here, I've had the things that have germinated and then grown quite quickly have survived. So those that developed root systems quickly have survived. Then I had a whole lot of sprouts that sort of came through a little bit slower, but then just died. And I think it's because their roots were getting eaten. These ones, I've done virtually exactly the same thing. I just let the soil dry out before I planted everything in there. My germination rate is almost 100% and everything is doing well. So coriander, sweet pea flowers, more sweet pea flowers, purple broccoli, snow peas. That's going to be beetroot. That's cos lettuce and more peas down the back there. So amazing the difference. And the only thing I've done differently, and I've even had them sitting next to each other, is that I have let that soil dry out completely before I stuck anything in there and started planting them. So I think that was my biggest problem. Back to the rest of these beds. This is my youngest tomato plant, which is really thriving. As you can see, I've done virtually no maintenance in terms of cutting it back. It's like a full bush. This is that tomato plant, which is tiny, tiny little red cherry tomatoes. It's supposed to be the smallest tomatoes that you can buy. I'm not sure if that's actually true, but that's how they market themselves. And I have intentionally sort of let this one flow over the side so that Luce, my youngest, could come and help herself and pick at them, which is definitely working. Except she's also worked out that if she squishes them in her hand, they pop. So that's her favourite thing, is to squish them and watch everything pop all over her, which is fun. Like, it's all about learning and senses and stuff, isn't it? On the other side, my cherished sun gold tomatoes have been going beautifully. So many gorgeous sun gold tomatoes in there, and I haven't even had a chance to pick them all before they've got fully ripe, and they seem to be doing quite well. I don't know what it is, but the birds, I think maybe the structure is a little bit too tricky for them to balance on. The birds seem to be leaving these alone a little bit for now, and they are just so yummy. Lesson for the future: it really is great to succession plant your tomatoes, because when your first lot start dying off, particularly when you've got a long, warm summer like we do this year, the rest of them just keep on going. Like, this plant is so healthy and there's so many tomatoes on there. I reckon I could probably speed up the development of some of these tomatoes by pruning the bush back, but I just don't have time or energy. Parsley and capsicums in here. Again, I'm using these bags to try to protect the capsicums. My capsicums are the one thing that I have been spraying, just because otherwise I can't actually get them to a point where they're edible, because they just get these insect holes all through them and they rot on the inside. So there is my full and honest disclosure. I was showing you this possibly pumpkin patch earlier, and I've just spotted something. Not only is this trying to climb down onto the ground, do you know what, I'm actually going to let it. I can also see another flower there. Oh yeah, there's one. I reckon I might go through and hand pollinate these, because I haven't before had such big, abundant flowers, and I'm actually going to do that now. So hand pollination in a nutshell, I assume it's the same as zucchinis. You just got to get some pollen from a male flower and into a female flower. Usually easy to tell which is which. Male flower will just be a flower with nothing obvious on the stem. Female flower will be a flower with a baby in its tummy. And so you've just got to get some of the male pollen onto the inside of the female flower. That works for zucchinis. I haven't done pumpkins before. If it's not that straightforward for pumpkins, let me know. But as a general rule of thumb, that usually works. So we'll try that. I'm going to go up the top and do the same up there. I just found a big one growing in there too. That's really exciting. Is that a pumpkin, guys? Okie dokie. So under here, this is my sort of brassica hub for now. So my kale is still going great guns. I should probably actually harvest, eat and enjoy some of that. You know what? The kids actually don't mind kale. If I chop it up small enough and put it in like stir fries and stuff, it really doesn't have that much of a strong taste. It can be a bit tough, but I think the key is really just, chopping it up really fine. And it just adds this really excellent burst of goodness. So in here, what are they? They are broccolini. Of course, I've got way too many in here. I just didn't have the space to plant them out yet. So I've popped them in here to protect them for now. It has been really hot. These ones are red cabbage. I wonder if it's been too hot for them and they are starting to almost look like they might even be kind of reaching too much. But look, we'll see. It's all a test. It's all a test. I'm at some stage relatively soon going to take some of these out and spread them out a bit more, but for now they're in here just to keep the cabbage white butterfly away and keep them alive until I come up with a better longer term solution. You can see one caterpillar got into this one, and I found the one caterpillar and removed it, so the new leaves are all healthy. But look, you can see how it's just completely stripped those base leaves, and had I let it keep going, the whole plant would have gone. Hungry little things. Lettuces in there, and again it's been really hot, so they're not doing particularly well. And this is another self-seeded pumpkin plant, which is really interesting. So it doesn't get enough sun down here, and I thought, oh yeah, it doesn't look like it's doing very well, but it's just found a way to actually weave up. It's found a way to weave up through the back and come out the top, and it's just kind of found the sun up there. My strawberries down here have been really nice, doing really nicely in my glow pear. We went through a phase of just getting heaps and heaps of strawberries, and now we're going through a phase of getting heaps and heaps of flowers. So I reckon we did have a few days of cool weather, and then we've had warm weather, and now they're all trying to grow again. And for the first time ever, these strawberries actually taste really yummy. I don't know if it's the variety, I don't know if it's the amount of sun or what. You can see I've got another chili down there. But these actually taste better than the other strawberries I've grown in the past. And Lucy is also loving them. I also actually had my first day back at work this week. So I've been on maternity leave for the last year, but by trade I'm a journalist, which is why I love interviewing other people about gardening and stuff. That's why I like making videos. But I'm a TV news reporter. I went back this week. I'm only starting 1 day a week initially. I'll build from there. That was good to get back into it. I've lost a lot of the muscle memory, so yeah, all the shortcuts on the computers and stuff that used to just be so easy, I found a bit slower. So it'll take me time to, I guess, get up to speed with that. But I did have a couple of people comment saying that they saw me. They're obviously Victorians on the news that night. So hi, straight back at you. I guess this is also a really great opportunity if you, I obviously love the growing space. If any of you guys at home come across news stories we should be covering within this space, whether it's agriculture, whether it's anything, if it's newsworthy, if it affects a large number of people, let me know, because I can cover it on an even bigger scale than this YouTube channel. So you can either let me know in the comments or you can shoot me an email. Always love getting news tips. It doesn't even have to be gardening related. If there's something big happening in your area, get your phone out, capture a vision of it, send it through and let me know, and we can put it on the news. If you've enjoyed this video, there's heaps more. I have a full playlist of my garden tours. If you want to know what's coming up next month, you can find the month that is in line with wherever you are or what you want to learn about. I've been doing this for more than a year now, so every month is covered off. I also frequently do tours of other amazing gardens around Australia. We'll see you soon.